this is Mark and Shauna, Level 5, Lesson 9.
In one of the other lessons in Level 5, we talked about doing a stretch with a front step. And we also discussed that when you're leading a stretch, it's not necessary that the stretch be a rock step, more that the muscles you're engaging in your body are that your own body is feeling stretched, and so that's communicating stretch to your partner. So in this lesson, we're going to show some other ways that we can communicate the same sort of feeling of stretch within ourselves, which then communicates that to our partner. So the first one we're going to do is actually an elbow type of a stretch. So if Mark puts his hand on my elbow, this isn't much of a lead yet, but if he allows me to add momentum into this turn, then I'll get to a point where I'm feeling now my shoulders engaged in the back, and so I feel that element of stretching within all through my back and in the back of my shoulder, and so he's effectively communicating to me this is a stretch. And we know out of that stretch we need some type of release. So in this case it might be a turn. So we're going to do a move that uses an elbow stretch on this side and then also an elbow stretch on this side. And we recommend just trying out how you can get your follow to feel that element of stretch.
When you're catching your follow's elbow, keep in mind that you're actually catching it, you're not just stopping it. So a stop would be a really abrupt her, and I'm going with her to stop her, and I'm also stretching in my shoulder as well, not flexing my arm to stop her, but using my shoulder muscles to catch her using stretch.
So just like on this type of stretch, we're going to stop stretching when we get to the point where it's no longer effective for our muscles to stretch. Either we're doing like some sort of bad habit, or we've stretched out as much as we need to. So the same idea applies here. We're connected, but we don't stretch immediately from the connection, just like we don't stretch immediately from here. It's a gradual process to get that stretch. So he connects, and then with the connection, he's going to apply a stretch. So he lets me travel until he feels a stretch in his own body, and now I'm feeling the stretch in my body, so we've communicated that stretch with each other. So here's our 8-count elbow catch move. We're going to do a rock step, and then Mark leads like a side pass, so I would continue doing triple steps. However, he's going to catch my elbow and connect at my elbow before I'm able to do another triple step like I would on a side pass. So as he catches this, he allows me to keep turning, but we end up doing a rock step, and we allow that stretch to happen, and then he turns me, so I end up doing another triple step, and then we'll continue that pattern. So the whole thing from the beginning. We have a rock step, a triple catch, rock step, triple catch. Make sure you catch the follow inside the triple step so that you're already connected before we lead that stretch in the rock step.
And then leaders on this move, after that first triple step, I'm doing a rock, step, step, or across here, rock, step, step. You could do a triple step, but I find it's easier to start out with this move. You can focus a lot more on catching their elbow than doing some complicated footwork. So we're just doing rock, step, step, rock, step, step, and we're catching and redirecting the follower. All right, the next move we're going to call Charleston fakie front and back. And so what we're going to do in this one is fake out the follower to do the opposite cadence as you on your Charleston front and back steps. It's going to look like this. We have a rock, step, kick.
So leaders, this is just another way to lead a stretch. The important thing is that you're communicating a stretch to your follow. But we've chosen this one because it's a fake out move. So Mark's going to stretch the opposite way as me, but it still communicates the same stretch for my body. So he leads on this fake out. I'm going forward, and so he brings his arm forward, so I get a stretch in the arm that I'm connected with him here. So follows, a lot of times when I'm watching follows dance, I see their elbow off of their leader. But when we're in side by side, I should be able to push this elbow on his elbow. This is another great connecting point that we often see not used, but there's no reason not to use it. So as he communicates that stretch, then I start to feel stretch because I'm attached to his elbow as I go forward, and then I still get this shoulder engagement like I would in any other type of stretch. So I'm able to do that front step with the stretch and a rock step with a stretch.
in general, with any sort of fake out move, we want to make sure that the same exact arms are being led, so the follower doesn't know that it's actually any different. So it's always up to the leader to do something different for a fake out move. So on this one in particular, you'll notice that my arm, if we were to do a normal Charleston basic, but do a front step, instead we would do rock step, kick step, front step, kick step, right? And I'm moving forward as I do that front step. So I need to make sure my arms continue to do that same thing, even though I'm going to go backwards. So you'll see it makes a pretty big distance between us when I fake out this Charleston front step. Rock step, kick step, front step.
So the opposite side of that, Mark mentioned if we were both doing a front step, we would continue to travel forward. So a rock step, kick step, then we would travel forward into that front step. The opposite of that would just be the kick. If we did a rock step, kick, we end up not really traveling far on that kick. So leaders, you have to be really clear in the solo movement with the arm that's around your follow's waist. So Mark could do this same fake out move with kicks. So that's that same move with kicks. We find when you're first learning this move, it's a lot easier to go ahead and let the arm swing further for the leaders and get her to do the front step and the rock step. And then you're also utilizing some great stretch and release each time. So rock step, he lets his arm go further and further and further. So each time that we do that front step or rock step, I'm feeling that stretch.
Okay, so one other thing that you may have noticed already is that during this fake out movement, when we're going opposite from each other, you'll notice that our arms are still going with each other. So my arms maintain what they would have been doing if I hadn't let this fake out move. So you'll watch here, rock, step, kick, juke. So Shauna and my arms are still going with one another.
For our next move, we're going to start first by showing you, this is really like a chasse, like you might do in a jazz class or a ballroom class. On a chasse, we're going to use the pulse that we would have and then bring our legs together and out. Different than like, you don't want to bring this forward foot first, so we use our pulse and then bring the back leg in first, back, front, and then pulse again, back, front. We can also do it this direction. Same thing, we would pulse and then bring that back leg first. So we'll take that same idea of a chasse and we're going to do it in closed position. So if we're in closed position, we still want this pulse and our in and together, chasse and chasse. Or we can go back this way. So that's our partnered chasse. Now we could probably throw that into our Lindy Hop if we want. Why not? It's Lindy Hop. But what we're going to do is we're going to take this closed position chasse and turn it into a really cool way to stretch and turn it into sort of a fake out move like the other one. So Mark's going to swing his arms as if he's doing this chasse, which is really free and loose and goes down and up inside the pulse. So he's going to lead that with his arms, and in turn he's going to get me to do this chasse. And now, as I finish up this chasse, because of where our arms are, we have a really cool way to stretch here. I feel all of my muscles on the left side of my body, or on the left side of my back are engaged in a stretch, and Mark feels the stretch along here as well. Then he's going to use this stretch to bring himself in the chasse. And then we're able to release it, so we still have that stretch and release. And then as he catches me, we're back in closed. And so what Mark will do as he comes out of his chasse, we end up having a stretch away again, his hand on my back. And so I'm stretching to my left shoulder, he's stretching to his left shoulder. And then we use that stretch to get the follow to do the chasse. And now we're both stretched in the opposite direction. So if you want to just practice that stretch, I'm going to lean to my left and Mark's going to lean to his left. And we get this really great stretch here across each other. And then Mark's going to use his arms into that release. And that's that down up of the pulse that happens in that chasse. And now he's going to use this stretch. Now we're both leaning to the right. He's going to use that to do his chasse. Now we're both stretching to the left, and the arms go, and we're stretching to the right.
One other really important fact to make note of is that Shauna, when she says lean away, when we're leaning away here, we're leaning away from our hips and we're not leaning our upper bodies away. And that's just our normal good technique that we want to have. But you may find that if it's really hard, it's because you're leaning your shoulders away and not your hips.
So the cool thing about this chasse move is that it forces the leader to lead that stretch and the follow to wait for the stretch. And follows, we need to get really good at waiting for our signals. And so as we're doing this move, Mark sends me across, and I'm sort of waiting for something here, and then he comes in instead of bringing me this way. But from here, we're not stretched out right now. We're really relaxed, really loose. And so follows, I'm waiting for a signal to continue this chasse move. So Mark has to initiate the stretch and communicate that stretch to me by feeling the stretch in his own body before we would continue. So the way that we would get out of this he goes, she goes chasse is if Mark decides not to stretch, so the absence of stretch would allow us to be loose. And if we're in closed position and he doesn't lead a stretch, well, there's lots of things we can do from closed position if we're not already stretched out. So leaders, that's how you want to practice that, is going from a relaxed and then into the stretch each time. And as you get better at it, you can speed it up.